friends. Welcome back to school, sort of. I had a chance to come in to grab some things, and I thought, what better time to make a video for you? Um, we had brought some friends down off the shelves. We have the pigeon skeleton. I thought we might take a little time to talk about birds since birds are a character in this story right now, since they're thinking about hooking all of those seagulls, right? All right, so here is the pigeon skeleton. Do you remember that? And birds are different from mammals, as we've talked about, because, well, the things that they have in common are they are both warm-blooded, and that might be it. The things that are different are that they have a beak. What else? Wings. And their feet are different, right? And there's another important difference. Do birds give milk to their babies? No, they don't. And birds lay eggs, right? The feathers on our old owl were getting a little dusty, so I'm glad I pulled him down. Do you remember we talked about owls earlier in the year around October? And how these tufts look like ears, but they aren't really ears? And how the owl has such strong talons for grasping its prey? And the wings, remember how the bird's bones are hollow? And that way that the owl can fly silently in the night when it's looking for prey? And we know that an owl, like some of the mammals we talked about, is nocturnal. Do you remember what it means if an animal is nocturnal? That's right. It means it is awake at night and it sleeps during the day. Now, seagulls are not nocturnal, but they are birds. Let's go ahead and read the next section of James and the Giant Peach and see if the earthworm decides to make the sacrifice for his friends and be the bait for the seagulls. Here we go. James went over and put his arm gently around the earthworm's shoulder. "I won't let them touch you," he said. "I promise I won't, but I've got to hurry. Look down there." There were more sharks than ever now around the peach. The water was boiling with them. There must have been 90 or 100 at least. And to the travelers on top, it certainly seemed as though the peach were sinking lower and lower down into the water. "Action stations!" James shouted. "Jump to it!" There's no moment to lose. He was the captain now, and everyone knew it. They would do whatever he told them. "All hands below deck, except Earthworm," he ordered. "Yes, yes," they said eagerly as they scuttled into the tunnel entrance. "Come on, let's hurry." Excuse me. "And you, Centipede," James shouted, "hop downstairs and get that silkworm to work at once. Tell her to spin like she's never spun before. Our lives depend on it." "And same applies to you, Miss Spider. Hurry down, start spinning." Here's the illustration. Poor Earthworm, he's got his sunglasses on. And he doesn't need them though, does he, since he hasn't any eyes. And you can see, boy, that's a large flock of seagulls up there in the sky. Chapter 22. In a few minutes, everything was ready. It was very quiet now on top of the peach. There was nobody in sight except the earthworm. One half of the earthworm, looking like a great, thick, pink sausage, lay innocently in the sun for all the seagulls to see. The other half of him was dangling down under the tunnel. James was crouching close beside the earthworm in the tunnel entrance, just below the surface, waiting for the first seagull. He had a loop of silk string in his hands. The old green grasshopper and the ladybug were further down the tunnel, holding onto Earthworm's tail and ready to pull him quickly out of danger as soon as James gave the word. And far below, in the great hollow stone of the peach, the glowworm was lighting up the room so that the two spinners, the silkworm and Miss Spider, could see what they were doing. The centipede was down there too, exhorting them both frantically to greater efforts, and every now and again James could hear his voice coming up faintly from the depths, shouting, "Spin, silkworm, spin, you great fat lazy brute! Faster, faster, or we'll feed you to the sharks!" Oh, that centipede. "Here comes the first seagull," whispered James. "Come on now, Earthworm, keep still. The rest of you get ready to pull." "Please don't let it spike me," begged the earthworm. That's a cute way of saying, "Don't let it get me with its sharp beak." I won't. Shh. I think that Earthworm's friends don't want to let the seagulls know that there are other creatures on the beach. Out of the corner of one eye, James watched the seagull as it came swooping down toward the earthworm. And then suddenly it was so close that he could see its small black eyes and its curved beak, and the beak was open, ready to grab a nice big piece of flesh out of the earthworm's back. Pull! Shouted James. The old green grasshopper and the ladybug gave the earthworm's tail an enormous pull. And like magic, the earthworm disappeared into the tunnel. At the same time, up went James's hand, and the seagull flew right into the loop of silk that he had holding out. The loop, which had been cleverly made, tightened just the right amount, but not too much, around its neck, and the seagull was captured. Here it is. Hooray! Shouted the old green grasshopper, peering out of the tunnel. Well done, James. Up flew the seagull, with James paying out the silk string as it went. He gave about 50 yards, and then he tied the string to the stem of the peach. Next one, he shouted, jumping back into the tunnel. Up you get again, Earthworm. Bring up some more silk, Centipede. Oh, I don't like this at all, wailed the Earthworm. It only just missed me. I even felt the wind on my back as it was wishing past. Shh, whispered James. Keep still. Here comes another one. And so they did it again, and again, and again, and again. And the seagulls kept coming, and James caught them one after another and tethered them to the peach stem. 100 seagulls, he shouted, wiping the sweat from his face. Keep going, they cried. Keep going, James. 200 seagulls, 300 seagulls, 400 seagulls. The sharks, as though sensing they were in danger of losing their prey, were hurling themselves at the peach more furiously than ever, and the peach was sinking lower and lower still in the water. 500 seagulls, James shouted. Silkworm says she's running out of silk, yelled the centipede from below. She says she can't keep it up much longer, nor can Spider. Tell them they've got to, James answered. They can't stop now. We're lifting, somebody shouted. No, we're not. I feel it. Put another seagull on, quick. Quick, everybody, quiet. Here's one coming now. This was the 501st seagull, and the moment that James caught it and tethered it to the stem with all the others, the whole enormous peach suddenly started rising slowly out of the water. Look out! Here we go! Hold on, boys! But then it stopped. And there it hung. It hovered and it swayed, but it went no higher. The bottom of it was just touching the water. It was like a delicately balanced scale that only needed the tiniest bit to tip it one way or the other. And now came the big moment. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. One more will do it, shouted the old green grasshopper, looking out of the tunnel. We're almost there. And now came the big moment. Quickly, the 502nd seagull was caught and harnessed to the peach stem. And then suddenly, but slowly, majestically, like some fabulous golden balloon, with all the seagulls straining at the strings above, the giant peach rose up, dripping out of the water, and began climbing toward the heaven. Hooray! Chapter 23. In a flash, everybody was up on top. Oh, isn't it beautiful, they cried. What a marvelous feeling. Goodbye, sharks. Oh boy, this is the way to travel. Miss Spider, who was literally squealing with excitement, grabbed the centipede by the waist, and the two of them started to dance around and around on the peach stem together. The earthworm stood up on his tail and did a sort of wriggle of joy all by himself. The old green grasshopper kept hopping higher and higher in the air. The ladybug rushed over and shook James warmly by the hand. The glowworm, who at best of times was very shy and a silent creature, sat glowing with pleasure near the tunnel entrance. Even the silkworm, looking white and thin and completely exhausted, came creeping out of the tunnel to watch this miraculous ascent. Up and up they went, and soon they were as high as the top of a church steeple above the ocean. Here they are. They are quite high. I'm a bit worried about the peach, James said to the others as soon as all the dancing and shouting had stopped. I wonder how much damage those sharks have done to underneath. It's quite impossible to tell from up here. Why don't you go over the side and make an inspection, Miss Spider said. It would be no trouble at all, I assure you. And without waiting for an answer, she quickly produced a length of silk thread and attached it to the peach stem. I'll be back in a jiffy, she said, and then she walked calmly over to the edge of the peach and jumped off, paying out the thread behind her as she fell. The others crowded anxiously around the place where she had gone over. Wouldn't it be dreadful if the thread broke? The ladybug said. There was a rather long silence. Certainly it would be. Are you all right, Miss Spider? Shouted the old green grasshopper. Yes, thank you, her voice answered from below. I'm coming up now. And she came, climbing foot over foot up the silk thread, and at the same time tucking the thread back very carefully into her body as she climbed past it. Is it awful? They asked her. Is it all eaten away? Are there great holes in it everywhere? What do you guys think? Miss Spider clambered back onto the deck with a pleased, but also a rather puzzled look on her face. You won't believe this, she said, but actually there's hardly any damage down there at all. The peach is almost untouched. There are just a few tiny pieces out of it here and there, but nothing more. You must be mistaken, James told her. Of course she's mistaken, the centipede said. I promise you I'm not, Miss Spider answered. But there were hundreds and hundreds of sharks around us. They churned the water into a froth. We saw their great mouths opening and shutting. I don't care what you saw, Miss Spider answered. They certainly didn't do too much damage to the peach. Then why did we start sinking? The centipede asked. Perhaps we didn't start sinking, the old green grasshopper suggested. Perhaps we were all so frightened that we simply imagined it. Friends, when I was a little girl, I used to imagine all kinds of things and worry about ridiculous things. Do you ever imagine like that? I think I might have imagined that the peach was sinking too. Old green grasshopper has a good point. Sometimes we imagine things that aren't really happening. This, in point of fact, was closer to the truth than any of them knew. A shark, you see, has an extremely long, sharp nose, and its mouth is set very awkwardly underneath its face and a long way back. This makes it more or less impossible for it to get its teeth into a vast, smooth, curving surface like the side of a peach. Even if a creature turns onto its back, it still can't do it, because the nose always gets into the way. If you have ever seen a small dog try to get its teeth into an enormous ball, then you will be able to imagine roughly how it was with the sharks and the peach. It must have been some kind of magic, the ladybug said. The holes must have healed up by themselves. Oh, look, there's a ship below us, shouted James. A ship? Everyone rushed to the side and peered over. None of them had ever seen a ship before. It looks like a big one. It's got 3 funnels. You can even see the people on deck. Let's wave to them. Do you think they can see us? Neither James nor any of the others knew it, but the ship that was now passing beneath them was actually the Queen Mary, sailing out of the English Channel on her way to America. The Queen Mary is now docked in Long Beach, which is not too far from San Diego. Of course, you couldn't go see it now. I'm sure it's not open. But the Queen Mary is a very grand ship. Anyway, it was sailing out of the English Channel on her way to America. And on the bridge of the Queen Mary, the astonished captain was standing with a group of officers, all of them gaping at the great round ball hovering overhead. Friends, your assignment today is to tell me what is going to happen when the people on the boat see the peach, or what is going to happen to the peach after people help on the boat. What could happen? Please write or illustrate or both to go above and beyond what you think will happen next in the story. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.